You've probably heard of the special relationship, right? The one between the UK and the US. Well, for decades, that's been a cornerstone of global politics. But right now, a seemingly simple question is quietly putting that entire relationship to the test. A really serious test. And here's the big question. Should the UK actually retaliate against new American trade tariffs? I mean, should they hit back? It sounds straightforward, but how they answer this could pretty much define Britain's place in this whole new world order. Okay, so you've got a lot of other countries, especially Britain's European neighbors, and they're all gearing up to push back, and push back hard. But the UK, they've made a completely different call. They've decided to stand down. No retaliation, no escalation. Which, of course, brings us to the most important question of all. Why? So, let's talk about this puzzling silence. At first glance, you might think, okay, this is just calm, sensible leadership. But trust me, once you peel back the layers, what you find is a reality that is way more complicated and honestly, way more high stakes than it first appears. To really get our heads around this decision, we have to understand the new stage Britain is now playing on. Its position in the world has just fundamentally changed. And that shift is the absolute key to this entire story. Think about it like this. Before Brexit, a trade fight like this one wouldn't have just been Britain's problem. No, it would have been a European problem, handled by this massive unified economic bloc. But now, it's simply a British problem. The UK is out there negotiating all on its own. And that means it has lost something absolutely crucial. It's called collective leverage, and it's a simple idea. A big group of nations negotiating together has way more muscle than any single country ever could on its own. You take that away, and suddenly, the whole game changes. This new global reality isn't happening in a vacuum either. Nope, it's crashing right into some really intense economic pressures back home, which just adds another huge layer of complexity to this whole decision. You know, hitting back with tariffs, it sounds tough, right? It sounds strong. But here's the thing. A tariff is really just a tax on your own people. And at a time like this, with high inflation and a brutal cost of living crisis, imposing new tariffs would just mean higher prices for everybody and higher costs for businesses. That is a risk the government just isn't willing to take. So, that's the dilemma. If hitting back is just too dangerous for the domestic economy, what's the alternative? What do you do? Well, that brings us right to the strategy the UK has actually chosen to go with. Instead of picking a big public fight, Britain is placing a huge bet on something else entirely. We're talking about quiet, behind-the-scenes diplomacy. So you've got these two paths, right? Public confrontation, tariffs, angry headlines, the whole show. Or quiet diplomacy. And the UK is going all in on the quiet path. The idea is to keep any disagreements private, behind closed doors, while publicly everything looks cooperative. It's a massive bet on the power of personal relationships. And the goal here is actually pretty simple. Just keep talking. Use that constant communication with Washington to snuff out problems before they blow up and become official, set-in-stone policy. This is all about de-escalation, not confrontation. But here's the catch with this quiet strategy, and it's a big one. It has a huge hidden risk because it all depends on what everyone else decides to do. So let me ask you, what happens if the UK plays it cool, but the European Union decides to come out swinging? Well, you get this really dangerous ripple effect. First, the UK chooses restraint. But then, the EU goes ahead and imposes its own tariffs. And suddenly, that unified Western response, it shatters. It's totally fragmented. And remember that collective leverage we were just talking about? Poof, it's gone. And that makes everybody weaker. And you can bet this isn't going unnoticed. I mean, for rivals watching from Moscow or Beijing, a fractured West, one that can't even agree on how to respond to economic pressure, it just screams vulnerability. It's a huge signal that the alliance is divided and can be weakened. Okay, so let's zoom all the way out now, because what we're seeing here isn't just some isolated incident. It's actually a symptom of a much, much bigger shift in the entire rulebook of the global game. Think about it. For most of the last 70 years, when allies had an economic disagreement, it was this slow, super technical thing that was handled by experts behind closed doors. But today, that has all changed. Tariffs aren't the last resort anymore. They're often the first move. They're used as a fast, loud, very public political signal. And that creates a whole new and, frankly, dangerous dynamic.
We're in a world of loud political signals now. And in this world, the ones who escalate, the ones who make the most noise, they get all the attention. And those who choose quiet restraint, they risk being completely ignored and, worse, losing their influence.
This leaves the Prime Minister with a truly impossible choice, a real balancing act. On one hand, you can escalate and risk serious economic pain at home, or you can stay calm and risk being completely sidelined on the world stage. There are just no easy answers here, only really tough trade-offs.
So what this all means is that the UK's approach, this restraint, it's not a sign of indecision. Far from it. It is a deliberate, incredibly high-stakes strategic gamble. It's a bet that the old rules of diplomacy, of quiet conversations, and long-term relationships can actually still win out in this brand new, much more confrontational world.
And all of this leaves us with one final, critical question. In this new world, a world that seems to reward pressure and escalation, is choosing restraint a sign of real, confident strength? Or is it actually a weakness, one that could leave a major nation completely irrelevant, just sitting on the sidelines? That right there is the gamble Britain is taking.